that I wanted to kind of tap into. So let's see what it looks like. And welcome back to my channel. What's up, mi gente? It's me, Gabi, and welcome to my channel. If this is the first time that you're visiting, hello. I am a Pisces. I am a DIYing, makeup loving, digital artist, singing actor, Boricua millennial. And in today's video, I'm finally doing a DIY project video. Today's video had a total of 7 projects, but I quickly realized I needed to divide it up into 2 videos in order to really kind of go in depth and show everything that I wanted to show and it not be like an hour long. I don't want to edit an hour long video, you know what I'm saying? So in today's video, I am focusing on polymer clay and dyeing with natural materials. Those are the 4 projects we have today. If you want to see how I made polymer clay catch-all dishes, earrings, and how I used avocado pits to naturally dye some pillowcases, well, but yeah, let's get into it. So the first project I started with was the one that I knew was going to take the longest amount of time, and that was using avocado pits to make natural dye to dye some fabric with. So first I need to collect all of the avocado pits. It took my family and I a couple of months of not just collecting them, but remembering to collect the avocado pits, not automatically throwing them away. But it took a couple of months, so I had a total of 8 avocado pits to use. So now that I had the avocado pits, it was time to find the fabric I wanted to dye. So I had these huge white throw pillows on my bed. You might have seen them in previous videos, but I had them and I knew I wanted to dye them because not only were they huge and white, but my comforter is also white. It was a little bit too much white for my liking. I do have some pieces of furniture that are white, so I think I have enough white in my room to really ground the room. I also have my entire floor, which is white, and I also painted my door white. So I really want to kind of pick and choose what parts of my room are white, and the bed just had too much white on it. So the easiest thing to do was to dye my pillowcases. So I grabbed those 2 pillowcases, which are 100% cotton, and I went to work. The first thing you want to do is boil a huge pot of water before you put your avocado pits. So I grabbed a huge pot that we have that we usually normally cook our Christmas arroz and gandules with, but you know, we're not using it this year. So I grabbed that and I went ahead and I filled 3/4 of it with water, and I went ahead and boiled that. Filled up the kitchen sink with hot water to submerge my fabric. So I knew that I wanted to have my fabric submerging for as long as the water was boiling and just really keep it saturated and wet this entire process. So I went ahead and filled the kitchen sink with hot water and submerged them in there. I noticed we are remodeling our kitchen and the sink itself is kind of despegando from the actual granite, so I got a little nervous. So I removed the water and the pillowcases from the sink and I put it into another huge saucepan that we do have. So once the water, the original water on the stove, reached boiling, I went ahead and lowered the heat to simmering, and I carefully dropped in all of the avocado pits. I then allowed everything to simmer for an hour. The avocado pits in the simmering water and the cotton pillowcases in the hot water. An hour later, I went ahead and killed the heat to the avocado mixture and just let everything sit. I then added some baking soda. So I noticed that the water itself, the dye was not as pink as I wanted. It was a little bit orangier. So I went ahead and threw in some baking soda. I knew that that would make the water more alkaline and it would actually make the water veer more towards a pink color. So I went ahead and did that, and I'm glad that I did. I then mixed all of that, let that simmer up for a bit. I eventually removed the avocado pits from the hot water and removed any of the skins that are released and as much of the soot and kind of grit that it naturally creates. I went ahead and killed the heat completely and transferred the pillowcases from the saucepan of now cold water into the saucepan of dye and simmering water. Again, the heat was already killed. I just wanted to make sure that the actual dye itself was nice and hot before I put in the pillowcases. As soon as the saucepan was like not too hot to carry, I went ahead and brought it outside and let everything just, you know, chill out and marinate overnight. The next morning I woke up around 7 and I went downstairs and I went ahead and just moved everything. I wanted to make sure there was some pieces of fabric that were not submerged just because like it did float. So I went ahead and flipped it and reversed it and just mixed everything to make sure that the pieces that weren't submerged overnight are now submerged overnight, and vice versa. The pieces that were submerged are now like kind of sticking up from the top. So around like 3 o'clock that afternoon, I decided that it had been marinating enough. So I went ahead and dumped out all the water. I actually went to the front lawn and just dumped it anywhere where the grass was like yellow from Miss Penny doing her business. And then I went upstairs, put the pillowcases in the washing machine that had already pre-soaked, so it was filled with water. And then after that, I let it air dry for a little bit, and then I tumble dried it in the dryer just on low heat just to fully get dry. And I am so happy with the outcome. You can kind of see how some areas look a little bit more dyed than others, and that the color isn't a uniform color throughout. Again, I actually love that look. I think it offers it a very much more like lived in feel. It looks a little bit more vintage and thrifted. I think it does, you know, complement this little pillow nicely, and I think it just makes the favorite little nook of my room even more of a favorite little nook. I just love the way everything looks right here. So this form of dyeing was very time consuming. Other than that, I would 10 out of 10 do it again. I'm super happy with the way that the pillows came out. Again, I just love the look. I think it just looks really pretty. I think it brings out the texture that the pillows already had. And I just love the complement of like a nice like deep blush pink amongst these green walls. I think it looks gorgeous. Gorgeous. All right. Moving on to the next project. So the next project was all about polymer clay, all right? Basically, all 3 of these projects piggyback off of the same pattern that was created. Project number 2, polymer clay CatchAll dishes. I knew that I wanted to make kind of a 90s, 80s retro Saved by the Bell pattern. So I had a new delivery of some Primo Sculpey polymer clay. And I had to lighten some of the colors that I already had and mix in the white, so it was a whole process. I pulled jade, which was a gorgeous green color, cornflower, this beautiful blue, canary, this gorgeous yellow, and turnip, this beautiful reddish pink color. I went ahead and mixed them all up and made some nice pastel colors. I then rolled each of these colors out and cut out individual shapes. And then I rolled out a large chunk of the Primo clay to make the base of, or the background of the color. And I noticed a couple of things as I was mixing everything together and as I was baking all of these things up. So I noticed that the 2 types of clay didn't really want to kind of mix together, which was totally fine. But once everything baked, I noticed that the Primo clay has a much more like plasticky feel than the straight up souffle, Sculpey souffle that I was using originally to make my first batch of earrings. Those were made with the Sculpey souffle, and it feels more clay-like once it's baked. This Primo clay feels very plasticky, and it was easier to break after it was baked. And I baked it to the instructions. I did everything the way I was supposed to, but it's still a very plasticky feeling. So I don't know if it's my favorite. I do think it's one of the more affordable ones compared to the other types. I know that the Sculpey souffle is pretty expensive. I do prefer that over the Sculpey Primo though. So that's an issue for me. That's a me problem right there. But other than that, I used the bottom of 2 Pyrex 2-cup glass measuring cups, and I used the bottom of a small little bread loaf tin to make the CatchAll dishes. I then went ahead and used some gold paints and added some speckle detailing and painted the edges of the CatchAll dishes in gold. And I also used a stamp set of typewriter font letters and I stamped in the names of the people that I'm gifting these 2 dishes to. But then I also really prefer the rectangular one, and that one I made for me anyway, and it fits my Apple TV perfectly. Sometimes when I'm like laying in bed, I lose track of my Apple TV remote and I have this like such a fear of it breaking because like Apple products just like crack really easily. But this just fits it perfectly. So this is how the CatchAll dishes turned out. The next project I wanted to tackle used the same pattern as the CatchAll dishes, and I went ahead and made a huge amount of earrings. Now, I made more earrings than I was able to finish and prepare for this video, but I did finish 2 different earrings, and one of them I'm wearing right meow because it's so cute. So I went ahead and made and finished 2 different pairs of earrings. One of them I just left blank on the back. These pairs right here, they're just completely solid on the back. The other ones I painted gold on the back side, and I'm really happy with the way these turned out. They were, again, a little bit more labor intensive just because the clay itself baked a little bit more plasticky. It just ended up feeling really plasticky in my hands, and not necessarily in a bad way, just in a way that I wasn't expecting. So they were a little bit more temperamental to handle. I did lose a couple of pairs, so just keep that in mind if you are working with Primo clay, that it is a little bit more of a plasticier feel. What? Compared to the Sculpey Souffle. It was super quick. Once I made the pattern, I was able to use it for not only my CatchAll dishes, but also these earrings, and I'm really happy with the way they turned out. I'm really excited to finish off the remaining earrings I have. So that is it for today's video. Those were the 3 projects that I had for you today. Again, remember that I have 4 more projects coming over in part 2. One of them is going to be using some of the excess clay from today's projects. But if you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and go ahead and follow me on Instagram at GoGabiGabi. Other than that, mi gente, thank you so much for watching today's video. It was a labor of love, and I hope that you had fun watching it, learned a couple of things, and maybe you're inspired to try some DIYs yourself. But until next time, mi gente, just remember to take a breath, drink some water. Remember that I believe in you, and I'm sending you so much light, paz, and mucho, mucho, mucho amor. Hasta la próxima! See you in the next video, bye! So I'm super happy.